You are listening to the Love Unplugged podcast bonus episode 58. Today is a very special episode where I will be taking you behind the scenes to reflect on where I am today and how I've gotten here. So if you're looking to start a business, if you're needing to pivot or take your business to the next level, if you're needing help getting clear on your life purpose, if you're struggling defining your goals and how to even achieve them, and most importantly, if you are feeling out of alignment and disconnected from yourself, this is an episode for you. You are getting an in-depth look into what it's like working with a coach and how it can benefit you in your life. So grab yourself a cup of organic tea and let's dive on in. Hey there, I'm your host, Jessica Frigon, and I am passionate about doing the inner work needed to reach your goals. Let me be your guide as we navigate all the fears and insecurities that surface when it's time to step outside of your comfort zone. Along with my knowledgeable guests and industry experts, I'm here to teach you how to reawaken your life purpose and passion and create the steps to turn your intentions into action. Ultimately, my goal is to empower you to rise above the blocks holding you back and start living the life you are worthy and deserving of. Come on, it's time to slow down, find a comfy spot with your favorite organic tea, and get inspired. Thank you for tuning in to the Love Unplugged podcast. Hello, loves. Welcome to a very special episode of the Love Unplugged podcast. Today, May 13th, marks the first year anniversary for this podcast, and in honor of it, I'm bringing back a very special guest. So this person has made a huge impact on my entrepreneurial journey, and that is Cassie Field of Whoosh Wellness and The Wild Ride. So today is a perfect moment to share all that's been going on behind the scenes in the last few months, and to really talk about this new direction that I've discovered, and including an announcement that I'm so excited to share with you guys, all of which Cassie has been a huge part of. So I thought it was super important to bring her along here. But we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. Cassie is actually going to be taking over as the host, and I'm going to be getting in the hot seat. And together we're going to take you through the process of what it's like working with her mentorship program. So welcome, Cassie. Thank you so much for coming back for a fourth episode with me. But thank you so much for joining me again, and thank you for taking the time to walk through all this with us.
Thank you, Jessica, for having me back. I love that I've been back now for the fourth episode. Yeah, I just have to say I'm so excited to dive into, the process and honestly just what it's like to work with a coach and mentor and kind of, go through your process and your new pivot and your new exciting where Project Love is headed, which I cannot wait. Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm so excited to kind of flip the switch here and guest host this episode. And congratulations on your 1-year anniversary. That is huge. It's such a big accomplishment. I've been so honored and proud to have seen you and your brand grow so much. And I just can't wait to see what's going to happen for this next phase. You're leveling up, girl. It's going to be big. I love it. Okay, well, we may as well just get into it. Let's dive in. So we're going to cover lots of different topics today, but really dive deep into kind of the process of what it's like to work with a mentor or a coach, how to find one, kind of the struggles and a little bit of the fears that come up in the beginning, as well as kind of how to get over those. So let's do it. So first off, what made you want to seek a mentor or coach? And, was there that aha moment where you were like, yes, I need to work with a coach or a mentor? That's where you were in your phase or your journey along your path, and you really felt called to do that, to really bring your business and yourself to the next level?
Well, when I first started the blog many years ago, the whole entrepreneurial journey I found to be kind of lonesome, right? I kind of missed having somebody to brainstorm things off of, to bounce ideas off of, but most importantly, to have somebody there to kind of keep me accountable to accomplishing all these tasks that I really wanted to get done. I felt very alone at times, and even though I really enjoyed being the sole decision maker, I didn't want to let go of that. I liked being the creative behind the brand, making all those decisions and whatnot, and deciding what direction to go. I kind of missed having a partner in a way, in a certain way. So when I first started the blog, I realized that I had this mindset of it being more so of a passion project. And for me, when, I'm doing things just for me or just for fun, I'm not putting any effort into it. And because of that, I wasn't focused on it like I was, my day job where, there's money that is, I'm relying on that money for living and for my family and whatnot. So I was just kind of having fun with it. I was kind of just going through the motions, figuring things out as I went. But the more I kind of got into that entrepreneurial journey, the more I kind of started to realize that, okay, this might actually have a future. Like this might turn into something. I'm kind of loving this more than I thought I would. I'm kind of figuring things out, but I'm missing somebody to help me keep accountable for everything that I wanted to get done. So I didn't have that mindset yet that this was my future. So I needed someone to step in to really help me keep me accountable until I was into that mindset of like, now, okay, this is my full-time thing. This is what I need to focus on for my future. This is like where my money's going to come to support my family, to support myself. So there's like pressure there to like show up. And I needed somebody to show up for me in this time period until I got there.
Amazing. Yeah, there's so many different things I want to pull out of that. So again, when you talk about like being lonely and, missing that partner. So again, I'm a solo entrepreneur as well, and I can totally relate to that. And, we go through each day, we have these really, really like big highs. We make like exciting moves. We take leaps off of cliffs. We make huge decisions every single day. And then it's like, you kind of look left and right and you're just like, who's there? Like, who can share this with you? And, of course it's your family and your partner and kind of that, and again, I can probably just stress that, like building that community around you of just friends that can relate to where you're at. And, sometimes it's really hard to find. So again, I think that's where that mentorship or that coach can really play a crucial role. And I think what you kind of highlighted too was, they give you they're kind of there as like your friend, but they're also there to push you really hard. So, your friends, a lot of them are going to tell you what you want to hear. Your family's going to just tell you how good you're doing and how great you are and how far you've come. But in your mind, like, that entrepreneurial mindset is very much, we're pushing hard limits. We're going way outside our comfort zone, and we kind of need people on that level. I want to say, I want someone to, really push me outside of that comfort zone. So I love that you touched on that. I too can totally relate. I'm like, I kind of just want to get a partner. Like, I kind of just want someone to come into my business and join me. And I think, being a solo entrepreneur, it can be really lonely, but there's so many different outlets to kind of fulfill that need. And I'm sure we'll get into that later about, how easy it is to make, ourselves, we make the decisions, and it's so nice to not have to ask somebody else.
Yeah.
Something else I really, really loved is the point where you started this whole thing, and it was kind of a passion project, and it was it was kind of something that you were just doing. And it kind of, streamlined out of, your old business, which I think we can probably link and tag your previous episode where you really dive into kind of how this whole journey started for you, which I found so interesting, to really get to know you on that level. And I love that you loved it so much. You kind of went out on a limb, you took a huge leap, and you were like, I really love what I'm doing right now. And where is this going to go? And you kind of, it turned, I think that's a pivotal moment where it turned from, I love this so much. How can I take this to the next level of, monetizing it and growing it into, something bigger and better, and, trying to like reach out and help your community, which I think is great. And I think that's just a huge pivotal moment. So if anyone that's listening is in that moment of like, hey, I love this passion project, I can't stress enough as a mentor, if you are loving your passion project and your side hustle, but you're just you're in that limbo of like, oh, but my day job is so cushy, or, that actually gives me an income, start toying with the idea of taking the leap is exactly what we're going to dive into with talking through Jessica's process and everything, because she's making major leaps over here, which I'm so excited about. And lastly, the accountability part. I think we all need that on every level. I'm talking like, the CEO of Microsoft all the way down to, us just trying to get our businesses off the ground. We need to be held accountable, and, that kind of comes from the people who push us outside of our limits and can really, call you on your own shit. So I love that. So kind of, when you were starting, seeking, you kind of had that moment, that pivotal moment of like, okay, I really want to be held accountable. I want to turn this passion into more of a career and a future for myself because I love it so much. What were some of the fears that came up with while you were kind of seeking a coach?
Well, I mean, when I was looking for a coach, there's so many out there. I'm not going to lie, right? Like, it's not like there's just one coach. There's tons, and they all have amazing stories, and they all offer like different packages that is based on their own experience or their own education and whatnot. So mine was like really figuring out how to select the right coach for me, for what I need. There's so much variety, and when there's so much to choose from, I get really confused, and then I start second guessing myself, and that's a whole other bag to go down. Another one was, would they be tough enough on me to really push me outside of my comfort zone? I wanted someone who wasn't just going to be there to be like all sugars and flowers and be like, okay, yeah, you got it done. That's great. Well, I wanted someone to really kind of push me beyond what I felt I was capable of, because I think you're so much more capable than you think. So I really wanted that push. And I was always kind of wondering what that experience was like, because I didn't have like a full-on coach. I met with someone, here and there to get some guidance on some certain things and whatnot, but to have like a dedicated coach where like we had structured meetings and whatnot, what was that experience going to look like? What was I supposed to expect? Going into the unknown for me is always kind of hard, because I'm like, am I setting my expectations too high or too low? Or, should I have expectations? Should I have kind of guidelines that I kind of want us to meet? So a bunch of those types of things kind of popped in my head when I started kind of thinking about bringing somebody on.
Totally. Yeah. It's a huge commitment, and you're going to be spending a lot of time with this person, and it's vulnerable too. Like, you're telling them things about your business that you may be very ashamed to talk about. Maybe it's debt. Maybe it's, where you've kind of gotten to in your business, or maybe it was kind of, a few fails that you've reached. There's a lot of fear and shame we hold around taking these major leaps because it's so outside of our comfort zone. So I loved that you kind of said, what are your needs? Like, what were you looking for in a coach? And I feel like, and especially we're probably going to get into this later about your process, but it's like, I know you, and you probably wrote out this detailed like kind of list about I'm probably on a sticky note in your office somewhere of like, does Cassie tick all the boxes?
There's a big picture of you up on my wall, and I have like this whole list of like all your attributes. I'm like, yeah, check.
Yeah, okay, she's got that. Awesome. Okay, so 5 out of 5. Okay, I'll go with her. But I think that's huge. I think you really got clear about what your needs were. Like, and I think heading into, any sort of leap financially and, emotionally, and your commitment to it, really finding out, what do you want from this relationship? What do you want from this partnership, and from, the money that you're investing into this? And you got very, very clear on, I want to be held accountable. I want someone to push me outside my limits. And the fact that you were able to sit there and be like, I want to be pushed far outside my limits. Like, you came into this very willing, and that's not as common as you think. A lot of people, and working with people, like, it's very, you got to tailor to kind of who you're mentoring or coaching, because everyone's so different and everyone reacts really different. And, getting to know you in the beginning was, how far can I push her? And you wanted to be pushed, which was really, really great. And it is exciting to see. And you were kind of ready to hit the ground running. And so I kind of think of it as like this, there's like this fear of buyer's remorse, like, and coaches and mentors, they're not cheap. And especially kind of depending on the packages, it's like you're investing a lot of your hard-earned money, and what is that going to look like, for you to kind of, down the road? Like, it's not just like a quick buy and you're in and out. It's like, okay, we're going to be doing this for, a commitment for 6 months, and, how can I benefit you on something that's intangible? So it's like, you really got to click with the person. I think you highlighted that so well. It's like, do you get along with them? Have a conversation, have that consult call, and, do you click? Are your values aligned? All those types of things where you can really feel aligned as a person, but also that they're a little bit different than you, that they're going to bring this different perspective and outlook onto your business. And that's what you want. Like, that's key. So I think you did that really, really well. And I'm glad that I fit the bill. I think I won here. I think I won the competition. So yeah, of course, I'm just so happy to, and honored to mentor you. So on the opposite of that, what was the deciding factor that made you take that leap, that you were like, yep, this is it, this is the coach? Because again, like, there's so much fear around that, the money bit, and like, kind of that long-term commitment. So did you have that kind of moment where you're like, I'm going to jump off this cliff and close my eyes and hold my breath and hope it all works out?
Well, first of all, I think I won the competition because I scored big. So. But back to your question, I mean, I was really fortunate because we had met a few times and had interviews together 3 times on the podcast. So that gave us a lot of time to chat and to get to know each other and to really dive deep into, one, your business with Whoosh, your values, the type of person you are, what you bring to the table, everything that is just about you that you're wanting to share with people about, health and, what your products can offer them and benefits and stuff like that. And then I got to know you from the mentorship side. So I got to see like 2 different facets of you, and I really got to dive in deeper into the person that you are through them. And what I really loved is your energy. Your personality was just so easy to just talk to, right? Like, our sessions went for so long and it was just natural, just conversation that's probably going to happen again today. But your passion is insane, right? Like, your passion towards Whoosh and now this business that you have with mentorship. But I loved your approach to mentorship and how you took everything that you learned through firsthand experience, creating your business, turning an idea that you had flipped around, I don't know how many times before you actually like went full throttle on it, and then turned it into a successful business within 6-7 months, I think it was, yeah. Which, like, hello, that's insane. So I wanted to learn from somebody that had experienced it firsthand. I wanted to eventually, I knew at that point when we were talking about the mentorship program on the podcast that this was a right fit. I knew based on our discussions that I wanted to work with you and learn from you, but it was really just a matter of time and money. That's all it was. That's all it came down to, was figuring out how and when I was going to be able to do this. Because again, it's not cheap, right? It really isn't. So I was investing just so much into the blog and the podcast at that point, and obviously not monetizing it in any way. So I didn't want to add more expenses onto that without trying to figure out if there was ways that I could adjust my current spending to allow for that room. So what I decided to do was just kind of look at all the areas that I was spending money in my business and figuring out if there was anything that I could do to kind of shift where I was spending that money. And it came down to editing. So with my episodes, sending it to an editor to do was very costly, I'm not going to lie. And I took the time over the holidays to really learn how to do it myself. Now, I'm not a perfect editor. I'm not like fantastic and I know all the ins and outs of it. No, okay. But I can edit an episode where I'm happy with it. It's good enough. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. So I started working on that, and that saved me quite a bit of money each month, where, I have some left over to allocate somewhere else, but I have enough where it's not an additional expense coming out of my pocket, where I feel now comfortable investing that money into this program with you so that I'm able to work with you and get what I need out of the program, really.
Totally. I love everything that you said. You hit so many good points. I think let's talk about the time piece first. When it's that time commitment, and I'm just going to, totally give everyone an insider look into Jessica. She is the busiest person I actually know. She stresses me out. Her schedule literally stresses me out. She has every hour of her day scheduled in her planner. She is the most organized, scheduled person. Okay, and also I want to say that we're not paying each other to give each other these compliments. We're really just trying to give you a complete, translucent, transparent, I don't know, those are the same words, insider look at what it's like to, work with a mentor or a coach, and kind of what the process is, because I know a lot of people are going to relate to this story about at some point of where they're at within this process. And so I swear we're not paying each other to say all this. We've just like really, clicked and connected and have really, I learned so much from you as well every time, we jump on a call. So it's right back at you. But so again, back to that time piece and that commitment. So I just want to say, like, probably a lot of, blocks and fears are going to come up when you're trying to pick a coach. It's going to be, oh, I don't have enough time, or, oh, I don't have that, that time, to add into my schedule to, do this 1 hour meeting, or the work that they're going to give me, or take that on. And again, I just have to highlight you and your commitment that if you want it, you're going to make it work, financial and on a commitment time base. If you are really keen and really committed to doing something, nothing will get in your way. It may not happen right at this moment. Again, we probably met, I don't know, probably a year and a half ago. And then, we did a couple podcast episodes, and then we ended up working together. So it doesn't need to be this like flip of a switch and you just make it happen. It's like, but if it's in your mindset and it's something you want, you're going to do and like everything you can to make that happen. And I love kind of the saying of like, people who pay attention. And it kind of goes to that putting money and financial time and that financial kind of earnings that you have on the line. It really brings you to the table as a mentee and, as a mentor too. Like, it just kind of brings everyone there for a reason to get shit done. So I just kind of had to point that out. And I love that you just kind of made it work. And I love that you really dove into your finances to do that. Not everyone's like that. So take notes, people. Like, the fact that you were like, okay, I want to make this happen. And you were able to teach yourself something to a point of, again, yeah, you're probably not a professional. You're not going to make a career out of it, but your episodes are great and they're amazing. And, like, how you edit them is perfect. And it's exactly, what you needed to do in your business to grow your business, which is huge. So I just think that you taking that leap and taking that on is another pivotal point of this, for sure. So now I kind of want to dive into the process. So kind of what the process of us working together. So kind of giving everyone that behind the scenes look of, and again, not every coach or mentor is going to have the same process. That's what makes the billions out there different. Everyone has something unique, which you're going to learn again in this episode too. But basically, let's kind of conquer, what did you find the most easy about the process of us working together?
So before I answer this question, I just want to make it clear to everybody that, when I first started this, it was solely to have like an accountability partner. I hadn't thought much further into it, right? Like, I move so fast that sometimes I don't go as deep as I should. So really what I was wanting was just someone to just help me focus on the tasks that I had planned to achieve, and to make sure that by the deadline that I was setting for myself, I had actually gone ahead and done them. What I didn't know was that this was going to be so much more.
Let's give people a little bit of a background of like what Wild is, just in the sense of like, because, let's talk about the process. But so basically what Wild is I've created these 10 steps, and it's really built to kind of probe and push and kind of guide you to really dive so deep into your process, your idea, where you're at. Maybe it's like the next pivot you're going to make. Maybe it's this new idea. Maybe it's an extension of your product line or service, whatever that is. It's basically a 10-step program that I take my mentees through to really dive deep and build that solid foundation to be able to grow from. So no matter where you're at in your business, it's really kind of, it can fit in if you want to build that solid foundation for kind of what's next. Like this next level that you're really seeking to get to. Let's start from ground zero, and that's where that foundation is going to get built. So yeah, let's dive into that. So maybe we can talk a little bit about, I guess, a couple of steps that you kind of went through. But yeah, let's say what was easy about it, kind of approaching the whole process.
I think the easiest piece, which not a lot of it was easy because it definitely requires work, was just the way that we had our sessions structured, right? So I kind of had free rein to bring whatever I needed to discuss at the sessions, pre-planning what exactly we needed to tackle, what I wanted to focus on. And then you gave me the space to be able to work on those within a timeline, obviously, but I work better on my own, just kind of getting things done rather than just, constant checkings and like all those types of things. I need that space to be able to do the work. And then I needed somebody to be there at the end when I said I was going to get it done to make sure that that's actually what needed to happen. But really that was probably the easiest part of it, was just the way that our sessions were structured.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I love that. And you kind of came into that, and actually I'll be totally transparent. I actually had just pivoted the way I offered my sessions right when you came on. So basically I used to meet with mentees once a week. And again, this might expand and kind of give some inspo into people who possibly have coaching businesses or wanting to. You really learn a lot from meeting with people, especially in the beginning. And I had just restructured because I found the once a week meetings, I found them to be a little bit, I became a crutch. I became that person that was, constant check-ins, and I was basically validating everything that my mentees were doing. And it was kind of taking away this, kind of pushing you to be resourceful and pushing you to, kind of get out there and get outside your comfort zone and really kind of dig deep on your own and see where you land. And again, this process is really about, working with any coach on any level. You're going to basically figure out how insanely amazing you are and smart you are. Like, the stuff that we're going to dive in later with Jessica is just like where, how she's grown this business to where it is. And it's like this idea is always been spinning and it's always been there, but it's like really like, when is it ready to come out? And that's kind of where that that outside perspective really comes from. So yeah, I definitely restructured them. And I think that's what I love about, our sessions. You come at me and you're like, I've done this massive list, of course, like all this stuff. And I'm just like mind blown. I'm like, you like the way you can tackle things and the way you kind of organize and get and like, go from like A to B is just like mind blowing on my perspective. So I love that the sessions were easy for you to, kind of have that freedom to kind of, do what you wanted to do. But kind of, yeah, the opposite of that. What was really difficult in the process?
So that's easy to answer. So diving in deeper was like the hardest part, I would think that, okay, I'm there, I have the answer, I figured it out. And then Cassie would come along and she'd like ask me a question, and then I'd be like, crap. And then she'd ask me more questions. I'm like, shit. And then I'd be like, oh man, now I have to like really dive even deeper. And, I wasn't used to going that deep, to be honest. And, I got lost along the way, but you kind of, without giving me the answers, without telling me what the right answer was or what I needed to do, you just kind of gently guided me through that lost process until I finally like figured it out in my own brain, which was amazing, but it's hard work. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Totally. Yeah. No, I love hearing that. And I mean, that's my job. And that's literally like, that's what I do. And what I do best is, again, I dig deep. I've had to do it personally and with my own experience and learn a lot of lessons before I got to this point to be able to nudge people in that way. It took me so long to do it. It took me over a decade to get here. And yeah, I just think that I come from I'm not about scratching the surface. Like, if you want to scratch the surface, beat it. Like, it feels so, surface and just not, there's no connection. There's no depth. There's no authenticity. There's no real value in it. And people will see that. So I think where I come from is I love to really push people inward. It's definitely about diving deep inward and really doing a lot of reflecting. And that's kind of where my workshops, it's a lot of like, functional, tactical steps. And then I have a self challenge because I also want to push you outside of yourself as well. And that's personal. And then there's the professional side. And if you're not kind of doing, I don't really believe that you can push and grow and up level without doing both. They really have to go at the same time. And I know you're a big believer of this too. And this is definitely in line with your new pivot, which is so exciting. And so I love that you struggled with that, honestly, because a lot of people do. And I did for so long that, without digging deep into, you know, who you are and what you really want to, you know, do and communicate and put out in the world. And especially with, you know, your innate skills. From my end, it's definitely about digging deep and a little bit more personal and professional, and really, you know, doing that inward reflection of where you're at, and, you know, kind of getting really clear on that. I'm definitely all about that clarity piece, and really, you know, building that solid foundation for it to put that out into the world. And that's really when your, you know, your business and what you do and what you put out and where your gifts are really, really going to shine. And people are going to respond to that. And that's what's so great. So I love that you struggled with that. It's definitely not an easy process. And again, I can relate too. Like it wasn't easy for me. And I think that's what's also great. You know, having someone who went through it too is always nice to be like, oh, this is how I'm feeling and I can't do this. And it's like, whoa, wait, I was there too. I know how you feel, and this is how we can try to work through it, that kind of thing. All right. So was there a certain aspect or point in the process where everything just clicked and you like saw this new vision and you were like, this is the new pivot. This is where I want to go. This is me. This is my authenticness. And this is what I want to put out in the world.
So there definitely was that moment. I thought I had it all figured out. I thought, you know, I was there, you know, I thought, okay, so I'm focusing on self-love, or just love in general. And that's, you know, pertaining to self-love, relationships with your partner, your family, you know, your love towards work, your passion projects, all that type of stuff. And as we were chatting more and more, and you were getting me to go through your steps that were beneficial for me, you know, I kept thinking about, you know, what am I going to offer the community? Like, what types of resources could I create that I feel like, you know, are just coming naturally to me? Like, what do I feel like I can put out there to help the community? And I always really struggled with that. I kind of felt lost, you know, like I was seeing what other people were doing and stuff, but something just wasn't sitting right with me. And I think that you noticed this through our chats. And again, you didn't point it out, right? Like you didn't flat out tell me, okay, this is not where you need to be. You need to pivot. You never said anything like that. You kind of just gently nudged me along the path. And that's where you kind of really told me to meditate on figuring out what my innate skills were. What are the gifts that I have? You know, like, what am I really good at? What do I really love doing? So that, you know, I'm able to share those things. And honestly, I had no idea. I'm like, I'm good at some stuff, but I'm like, I'm not really great at anything. Like, I don't know what the heck to like share with people. Like, I don't know what to do. I didn't really think much of what I could do. Like, I don't know why. But then after that session that we had, you know, I was taking a shower. I've said this before, with Jenna Kutcher. Sounds so bad. But I was listening to one of her podcasts and it was on the same topic. And she was all about talking about like figuring out what you can offer. What is your like gifts, things like that. And it hit me. I'm like, it was something that was like literally right in front of my face this entire time. It was something that came so naturally to me that, you know, I just easily overlooked it because it was just something so natural. Like, why would anybody want to learn that? I can do that so easily. Like, so can everybody else, right? And it kind of just needed that spark lit from you through your probing and your questionings and your gentle nudges to really kind of start that journey of opening myself up to other ideas and to other possibilities and to other pivots and stuff like that I should be taking. From there came the work. So the work again, right? So what really had to happen is I needed to redo everything that we had done up until that point. And that was kind of like, oh, all right. So what I started doing is I actually started taking the sheets that I had already filled out with all of your steps and started reworking it. Now, this is the funny part, which I thought was, now I'm laughing. Back then I wasn't so much. But, you know, I was editing all my old content and trying to adjust it to this new vision and pivot that I was so freaking clear on in our chat following the next session. And I sent it over to you, so proud. I'm like, yeah, it's all good. Da, 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 da. And then I get an email back from Cassie, and yeah, it was not all good. It was, I mean, at first it was crushing, not because of what you said, you know, nothing like that, but it was just like, how did I get this so wrong? Like, why it was so clear to me when we last chatted. And why am I not able to articulate it properly now in these steps that I'm doing? Like, why isn't it not coming out, right? Like, that was just so frustrating to me. And I kept looking it over, and I was just like, then it just kind of clicked in, as I was reading it over and over and over again, that I needed to start with a blank page. For some reason, having all of my old business stuff there was taking me off the new path. It was confusing everything that I was actually wanting to do. It was kind of blending the two together, but was not actually what I had planned on moving my business to. And you noticed this right off the bat, and you're like, yes, start with a blank page, go through the process again, and forget everything that you had done, start fresh. And then from there, because I didn't have all that old framework in front of me, I was able to get super clear, and it just poured out. And it just came so naturally, me going through those steps with this new vision that I had in my head, and it just made sense and it felt right. And then after you reviewed it, you're like, yes, there you go.
We made it. We made it. No, I love that. I love that you said gentle nudges. I feel like my nudges are not that gentle, but thank you for saying that. So I want to kind of go back to like the beginning of what you said, and kind of the most common questions I always get is like, you guys, like, I find everyone's spinning their wheels. I did this too, so don't think I'm excluded from this. You spin your wheels. You're like, what am I going to put out there? What am I, like, you're on this track of like, I just need to put something out there. And like, what is that going to be? It's like, what I really try to make people do is like reel you guys back in and be like, whoa, like, where are we starting from? Where's that heartbeat? Where's that root? Where is that foundational piece that we're going to start here? And that's where we grow from, with all of these ideas and these portals and kind of, these different things that we are going to put out into the world and that you're actually going to create. So what is that golden nugget, if you want to call it? And that root idea and that feeling and that purpose and that authenticity, and really discovering what that is, getting so clear. I'm talking so clear, and this took us, a couple times and a lot of nudges, and just because I can tell when someone's like just not there yet, and I can push you a little bit further. So that definitely happened between us. And so if I can give advice to anybody, it's like, stop stressing about what you should be putting out there. And again, too, it's stop comparing yourself to, the abundance of people, let's say all of your inspirational people that you follow and that you look after. We all have them. We're all obsessed with them. We all like look at their Instagrams and their Facebooks and their offerings like daily. And the worst thing you can do is, and what I find most common about what a lot of my mentees do, is they come at me being like, okay, well, I like this person. She does this, this, and this. So I want to kind of create that, but like for my own idea. That's cool and great and all, but is that even in alignment with, that foundation, that root piece, like of innately of what you're really good at? And often it's not. But what, like those kind of, when you're inspiring to be these people, you kind of just, you want that feeling. You want that kind of that overall encompassing thing. And that's what's so great about them. But again, don't look so narrow at each of their offerings, and that you need to kind of just take that and then do it with your own stuff, if you know what I mean. Like, just kind of input your own information. That's not how this works. So I love that you kind of mentioned that, and kind of, I love, this makes me laugh because I made you go through steps 1 through 3, and we were and I just kept probing and just kept commenting and we just kind of kept having meetings. And what I notice as, a mentor is I start noticing little threads that you guys don't notice, because we can't analyze ourselves like that. I can't do it for myself. That's why I work with mentors. That's why I have coach. I have like mentors on speed dial, because you need those people to be like, kind of slap you back on track and really kind of dig out those things that you overlook. And we overlook our innate skills. We really just do, because they're so innate to us. So again, you went through all these steps, and we got to the end, not the end, but like, this kind of foundational aspect of clarity. And you were like, hey, I've made it. And I'm like, not at all. You missed the target. And then, we had this like kind of breakthrough call where it was like, we were kind of, I want to say, actually, I remember this call so vividly, because it was such a pivotal moment. And we were about halfway in, and I could tell you were like getting a little bit beaten down because I kept just being like, no, like this way, and just kind of kept probing you. And I'm like, you're just so attached to kind of this kind of old idea that you kind of had and where you should be going. And I was like, it doesn't feel right. And I come from a little bit more of an intuitive approach, and I usually I get goosebumps when we really hit something. And I was like, hasn't happened, keep going, keep going. And then we it was I think we were about at like 36 minutes or something into this hour call. And I started being like, okay, we got to get there, or she's going to leave this call feeling really like, kind of taken down a little bit. And it was like a couple minutes after that, and we were just like diving into what you were good at. And you were just like, light bulb moment, just like, whoa, like it hit you. And I was like, yes, she's there. And it's, again, like you said, I could tell you a million times what you're good at, but if you don't realize it, you don't accept it and own it, you're never going to get there. So again, it's kind of, about guiding them into that direction and letting them arrive there at their own personal time. Let alone you guys all may be thinking like, why would she make her do, steps 1 through 3 and then have to redo them? And it's just because, you're only going to kind of put out that, authentic information and really dive deep if you feel it and if you know it and you really, really trust it and have kind of integrated it. So, yeah, we can kind of dive into a little bit about like the things that you're good at. So those innate skills, and this is going to kind of lead us into the next bit and where you're really going to dive into what this new direction is. So yeah, let's kind of, give us the goods about what's happening and kind of the new direction that Project Love's going into and this new pivot that we are going to see come to life.
So, this light bulb moment that I had was realizing that I'm really good at planning. I'm really good at executing, implementing. I've been doing it for over 10 years now, and way longer than that unprofessionally, obviously, because I was young. But it's just something that came so naturally to me. It's something I'm known for amongst like anybody who knows me. I'm super organized. I know where I'm heading. I know the steps I needed to get there. And to me, it just came so naturally because I do it every day that I didn't think that it was anything special, right? But I think that we get just so much in our own heads that we kind of overlook our own gifts and assume that everybody knows how to do it, but not everybody's the same way. Like I learned, you don't like to goal set the way that I do, right? I know many people who have absolutely no idea how to goal set and who have zero plans in their life. And that's okay, right? But that's where I can come in and help. So this whole new pivot that I'm doing really is, so Project Love is now going to be a digital platform. It's going to be a collaborative community that is designed to support goal-driven women who are feeling lost, who are searching for clarity, who are looking to level up their lives, really. So through my podcast, my practices resource, the over 10 years of experience that I have in execution and planning and implementing and whatnot, I'm dedicated to helping those reawaken their life purpose, because I know what it's like to not know what your life purpose is. I'm there to teach them the steps that they need to turn those intentions into actions, because you can have as many intentions as humanly possible, but if you don't turn them into action, you're not going to get anywhere. I want to show them how to experience harmony and alignment in that career and professional life and personal journeys that they're on. And then I want to help them and empower them to deepen that connection with themselves through an unconditional self-love practice, which I think is so important. Because I honestly think that we're so worthy and deserving of living a life that we're excited to get out of bed for in the morning, right? You want to jump out of bed and just be so excited to get to your life. And I think that a lot of people are lacking that. And I know I've been through all this myself. So I want to be able to be there for those people to help them go through the same challenges that I had.
Amazing. Can we get like a big round of applause? Like so good. I'm excited. I hope everyone that's listening is just like on the edge of their seat, super excited for what's to come with Project Love. I mean, her pivot, and again, like, let's talk about that pivot piece. So, she started with kind of this passion project and she loved talking about love, and you come from a more wedding background. And then, like, let's highlight that planning piece and that execution piece. And you really know how to get like this end final destination. Let's say it's a wedding, just for ease of example. And you're like, Kate, this is where we want to get to. What's like the 1.5 million steps that we need to get there? This is something you've been doing for so long. And again, even by myself getting to know you and the lists you create, and even, a lot of my work, I'm like, what are your goals? And I could never coach on goal setting. Like, I don't even know how to goal set. I'm more of that now bit, like, where are we here? And like, what are we doing now? And let's kind of create that foundation and build from there. Where I love how like unique and different yours is. You come from here's my 5-year where I want to be. And I love the kind of the deep, kind of aspect that you're going to take them of like, how do you want to feel in that? How do you want it to be like? What do you want it to look like? And then it's like, Kate, let's go. Let's rewind 5 years right till this moment. And this is what you need to do. And you're connecting those two pieces. And I always want to call you like the ultimate executor. Like, you're just so good at executing these like actionable steps and making them happen. Even I can see it firsthand through the work that we've done together, and just kind of your drive in that. So I'm just so excited that it is in such alignment with who you are and the fact that you've been doing it your whole life. And again, highlighting that we often look over our innate skills and what, for another example, like, I never thought that I was creative or that I could write or kind of like, generate these ideas. I always felt like I was that person in high school that was always like, I'm following other people's ideas and whatever they wanted to do and that kind of thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, fast forward a decade of me like soul searching for so long. And it's like, we overlook these innate skills so much, and it really does often take that outside perspective and that coach or that mentor that's really just going to nudge you in that way. And I think the moment you got there and you realized, it was like light bulbs. I think probably you speak more on this, but like how at home you feel and how just like it's not stressful because it's something you innately do. And I find it so funny that we often think everyone, and you said this too, that everyone around us does this because it's so easy to you. You're just like, everyone has this skill. Everyone functions the way I do. Absolutely not. That's actually like ding, ding, ding. That's when you know that that's your innate skill. So if anyone could ever, take a nice journal session and dive deep into that. So I think you kind of covered this, but anything else you want to add to like what made you want to pivot into this direction? Like kind of what's that, maybe let's talk about, your goals, because, this is going to be something that you're going to be teaching and coaching on for other people. So it's like this, what made you want to pivot into this new direction, and like, where's that going to take you? Give us the behind the scene, kind of aspect.
Like you mentioned, when you find what you want to do, it does feel like home, right? So the moment that we had that final chat to kind of work through it all, it just felt right to me. And it became something so important to me because, I know how to create a plan, but I also know what it's like starting without one, right? I started this blog and this podcast doing the blog, doing the wedding stuff, having zero plan, just wanting to start something for me at that moment, in that place that I was at that time. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had no goals. I had no plan. So I know what it's like navigating that when you have no idea what you're doing and where you're trying to get to, really. I also know from experience, what it's like feeling lost and unsure of where you're supposed to go. I've had a few big pivots with this blog and this podcast, and I know what it's like in between those pivots, feeling like something's not right. Something just doesn't feel like it's good, right? Like you just don't feel like everything's in place. I also experienced a huge lack of alignment in my life, and I suffered a major burnout because of it. So I know how to recover from it. I know how to help others also recover from that are experiencing those things. And then I also know what it's like when you're completely out of touch with yourself, when you literally have put yourself on the back burner for so long that you just have no idea what's going on internally and what you need, and everything that you need is basically like right out the window. So I know what those things are like. I also know, starting a business, the ups and downs of becoming an entrepreneur, and all that comes to surface when you do begin an entrepreneurial journey. I honestly, like you said before, feel that it really coincides, entrepreneurial business journey with a personal growth journey. They have to go hand in hand for you to succeed at either of them. So really what I'm going to be offering going forwards is a coaching program. So we'll get into that a little bit later, because I know you're going to be asking me about what's coming up. But just really, ultimately, I want to help people that have gone through similar things that I have be able to get through it a lot easier than I did, because I had no support. I had no help. I had to kind of fumble my way and figure things out on my own. And I just don't want anybody else to go through that.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize on that last part is, the fact that you've gone through it and you've experienced it, that's really where, that's where you learn the most. We learn from those like rock bottoms, those pivots, those mistakes, those kind of wrong turns, that kind of thing. And throughout our journey, gathering, for you to sit there and actually gather that information and really just kind of reflect on that, and be able to be like, wow, I can actually really help people because I know what it feels like. And I think that's a huge, kind of element that mentors and coaches need. And, you encompass that so greatly. Can you give us like a little, just kind of maybe one example of where this like kind of goal setting piece has like really just kind of brought you from A to B, just kind of to help people like relate, like just kind of an example of, where you've seen success in goal setting?
So, I mean, with this blog and this podcast, obviously, once I figured out that I wanted to actually move it forward into something that could potentially be my future, creating those detailed plans as to exactly what I wanted to accomplish. What did that look like? And then breaking it down from there as to how I was going to get there. But we'll talk about a little bit more of the goal setting process, high level, a little bit further. But really, I create a plan for everything, right? Like, what does my week look like? What does my day look like? What do I need to accomplish, at X period of time? What does my self-love practice need to look like this week? What do I need to schedule in? Because if I don't schedule it in, it's not happening. So I create a plan for everything.
I love that. And it makes me laugh because I'm so the opposite. I'm so like, and this is what makes you so unique. And this is why I highlight it, is just because it's like, I'm more of like, I wake up in the day and I like kind of go in like, I'll meditate and I'll go inwards and I'm just like, what do I feel like doing? And that's what leads me. But that's how different we are and how different, coaches can be. And I just wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront because you're so like, I need to schedule it in, where I'm like, if I wake up and I just don't care and I just can't even get after it, I'm like, okay, no work for me. And but it's taken me so long to get there, to accept that process. And again, it's your process and my process. And let's talk about societal programming for a little bit. Like, we are so programmed to be like, you got to work, and you just keep going. You're going to get there. That's how success works. And it's just like, we're kind of opening up these new doors of like, whoa, we all function. And this, you can see this firsthand between you and myself, and just how different we function as business owners and as coaches and mentors is just, our process is different. And that is what's so great. And, that's kind of where that target market comes into place, and who you're going to be working with, and what the process looks like. And so why don't you give us a sneak peek into the process?
So, I mean, as you said, I kind of reverse engineer things, whereas you kind of focus on now and what needs to happen for this moment. I always start way in the future. So what do you want that desired result to look and feel like? So whether you're focusing on, your personal life, whether it's like your self-love practice and reconnecting with yourself, or a relationship, or your work, what do you want that end result to be like? What does it feel like? What does it look like? And then what I want you to do is then determine why you want that end result. Because I feel like if you don't have a strong why, if you're not connected to that why strong enough, you're not going to do the work that needs to happen to actually get there. So you need to figure out how deep rooted that end result is in you, like how much you need it, why it's important to your life, how is it going to change your life for the better. You need to really get connected to that. Then I think it's really important to figure out, who do you need to be as a person at that time when you get to that end result? Because again, I think that the goal journey is one thing, but you also need a personal growth journey, right? They need to be aligned. So what type of person do you need to be able to be in that place where you have achieved your goal? So whether you have, say, a career role that you have in mind that you want to achieve, what types of skills, what types of behaviors, what types of routines do you have to implement? What types of, skill sets do you need to have to be able to be the best you in that role? Or if you're wanting to attract a relationship, what type of person do you have to be able to attract the person that you're wanting to attract? So if you're putting out a list saying, I want this type of person with these attributes, and I want them to be exactly like this, with these types of skills, or whatever that person looks like for you, that person obviously also has requirements for them, hopefully, right? So who do you have to be the best you for that person to keep them, right? You don't want to get to that end result and then lose it because you haven't showed up as the best you in that end result. So I think it's super important to do that inner work to figure out, what is going to be the best version of you when you get there, and how do we get you there? What are the steps needed to make you that person that you want to be in that end result? And then we create a timeline, which I'm not going to get too much into because it gets into the nitty-gritty of everything that I love. But we base it on your current life situation so that you're not taking on more than you can chew, right? We want to make sure that it's fitting into the schedule that you currently have, and making sure that it's actionable. You're actually able to achieve those goals, because there's nothing worse than having all these things on your list and just not having the time. It's unrealistic and you're never getting to it. That's nothing more than deflating. You're never going to get to that end result. So I think it's really important to look at that current life situation and plan it accordingly, create the actionable steps that are realistic for you to be able to achieve that end result, figure out that timeline that is realistic again, and then create those alternate plans, because like me, I've needed to pivot. Right? So there's not always one clear path to that end result. Sometimes it looks a little different. Sometimes it's completely different than you thought it would be. But as you're going through that journey, you might need to pivot. It might be the best route for you to change to get there.
I love it. I think your process is so multifaceted. You bring in that environmental piece that, these can be moms with multiple kids plus a day job or whatever that looks like. We all live very different lives and we all have a lot of responsibilities in very unique ways. And I think you really bring that element to it. And I think, even with you and your personal life and just everything that, you are so busy, so busy, that it's like you can really relate to this. And the fact that you're kind of bringing in that that person that who do you need to be to get to that point? And because again, that whole growing piece, and again, it's personal and professional, and I think you touch on every element, and then really execute those actionable and tangible steps for sure. So I'm sold. I'm excited to set a goal with you and see if I can achieve it. Oh my goodness. So on that note, let us know what does this look like? So how can we, work with you and jump on board to goal setting, because I need a lot of help in that.
So I'm going to be launching the coaching program, which will have different packages based on different needs. Obviously, not everything fits one person, so we can tailor it based on what you're needing in your current space. And that's going to be launching June 1st. So I'm only going to have a limited number of spots available, just because, I do have the podcast, the blog, a day job, hopefully not a night job once COVID ends, but I want to make sure that I'm giving the time that I need to dedicate to the individuals that are signing up, right? I want to make sure that I'm really investing in them and helping them to achieve, or to at least get a clear idea of what they need to do to get to that end result. So that is going to be available June 1st. If you want to get on the wait list, you can email me at jessica@projectloveco.com, and I'll be sending out an email and sharing it on June 1st, letting everybody know that it's available. But obviously, if there's a long wait list, those have signed up first will get the first dibs, obviously. In honor of the launch of the program, I am going to be offering 3 individual 1-hour sessions with me at a one-time price of $75 each. Now, this is a fraction of the regular cost. It's a one-time promotional price just to honor this launch and, to maybe help people kind of dip their toes into the goal setting practice to see if it's for them and to see what it's like working with a coach, so that, maybe that's something that they want to take long term, but they just kind of want to try it out at first.
Okay, well, I shot you one of those slots, so you're down to 2. I love that. It sounds so good. And I think, scratching the surface and diving in and really, getting clear on what our goals are. And that's huge and really huge to help us move forward and to up level, especially, kind of get to the level where you're at. And, you're definitely the definition of someone who's multi-passionate and who can conquer it all. So I think you're just so inspiring with what you do. And on that note, I want to kind of, inspire other people in the community to, kind of get to the feeling that you're at right now and, a feeling that I'm at right now as well. So can you kind of mention one key component that has helped you feel aligned with your business right now?
Okay, so there's 3.
Of course.
I can't really just narrow it down to one. There's just so much that you've helped and you brought to the table in our sessions, and I don't think it shows enough justifies all that you bring, just kind of tailoring it to one. So, honestly, the 3 that I can really point out that have really kind of stood out for me is feeling supported, feeling challenged, and then feeling heard. So you really supported and you encouraged me when I needed it. You told me what I already knew inside, or not told me, but you gently nudged me to figure out what I already knew inside. And you kind of helped spark that inside me to take that journey to discover exactly what I needed to do. You gave me a sounding board to talk things through, which I thought was super important, talking things through in kind of an unbiased environment where it's not with your family and your friends, who just kind of like, yeah, you're doing great, everything's fine. But you kind of pushed me and kind of expanded what I already knew and took me to a whole new level. Challenging is a whole other word. Boy, did you challenge me, in such amazing ways. And, at some points I was literally pulling out my hair, not at what you were saying or doing or whatnot, just, at my own struggle with articulating and putting cohesive sentences together that, made sense. I'm such a fast mover, and I don't take that time all the time to really slow down and to write down things and to get really, really deep and to look internally and all that stuff. And you really kind of pushed me to, go deep and to find those golden nuggets that I was needing to find to be able to get to the place that I am at right now. And I think it's so important to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. I think that's where growth happens. I think that's where magic happens. And obviously it worked with you. And then the last one is just being heard. I think this is probably the most important thing is, when being a solo entrepreneur, I'm like, you're kind of by yourself, right? Like I am by myself. It is very lonesome. There are friends and families that listen and, they can share their advice, but really they have no idea what it's like being a solo entrepreneur unless they're on that journey themselves, and they can't really relate to the experience either. They don't have that same experience to even talk about things through or talk things through with. And then, with social media, as much as I love, doing Insta stories and sharing with the community and whatnot, it's kind of one-sided, right? Like you're having an Insta story and they're not talking back to you. They're not having a conversation or a dialogue, or you're not having those sessions with them unless you're, doing that off the side. So it can feel very one-sided. So having that person to kind of sit there with me and to just feel heard and to get it all out, and to have somebody to kind of talk to me about everything that I'm going through, whether, it was on the personal side or the business side, because they both come up in this journey. It was so important to me because, even after my burnout, I sought counseling, and being heard, I think, is the most invaluable thing that you could ever ask for. I think it does so much in itself. And I think that was such a crucial thing in this arrangement that we've had together, is just being able to have somebody there to listen.
Totally. Yeah. I couldn't agree more with everything that well, for one, thank you. I'm glad. I'm just, again, so honored and glad that I'm able to offer you that and that support and that guidance. And I too, I've worked with many mentors and coaches, and I too, those are things that I definitely seek and things that I crave, from my mentors and coaches. And so I can definitely relate to you on that. And I'm, again, just so honored to be able to support you in this journey. And honestly, I just have to say that you have done it all. You've done the work, you've done the nitty gritty. I'm just here. I feel like I'm along for the ride. And you're really, and I just, I'm so fortunate to be able to sit like front row and be able to see you pivot and change and really dive deep and really, come outside of your comfort zone and really push boundaries with yourself and really kind of, step into this new pivot, into this new role. And I can't wait to see it, grow and expand, and for you to help, so many people with goal setting and really, kind of aligning that self-love practice professionally and personally, and really helping people like achieve things. And, that's, a huge, like, major limiting blocks that we have. We never think we can do it. We never think we can get there. And we feel like we're just kind of dog paddling the whole time, trying to get anywhere. And we just, it's sometimes it just lacks, or we just lack like that being seen or being heard, or, that little bit of support, and it goes so far. So yeah, I definitely can relate to that, to those aspects that you listed. So kind of to round out this podcast episode, can you list off like 3 tips on how to find the best coach?
So she's sitting right here.
Get that checklist out.
So, I would suggest very first thing is just have a consultation with them, have a chat, maybe a few chats. I was really fortunate to be able to have those sessions with you where we did, have really in-depth talks through the interview and whatnot, to really get to know you, because, do you get along? You want to get along with this person, right? Do you converse with ease? Is it natural when you guys are talking? Do you just kind of connect on that level? Do you feel discussing, the not so comfortable stuff with this individual? Do you like being vulnerable with them? Like, is it easy to show up as just yourself and just showing everything, kind of putting it out on the table for them? Because, not everybody you're going to feel comfortable doing that with, right? You want to have that person that you're able to just show up as yourself and just let your shit bear, and they're not going to judge you. They're not going to, shame you about it. They're going to help you in that guidance that they're offering you. And then I think having common values was super important. When I got to know you with Wosh, I got to know your values and what you stand for. And even to this day, I 100% stand behind your values and what you bring to the table, and just getting to know you as a person as well. The type of person you are, I really connect with that. And I think it's super important to align with values with whoever you're going to be learning from. And lastly, I think it's super important to learn about their journey and their why, right? So again, why is super important. They have to be connected to their why. That's when they're passionate, right? If they're super connected to it, they're going to be so incredibly passionate about helping you, and they're going to be dedicated to really sharing all that they've learned and helping you succeed. And I think you really want that type of coach. You want somebody who's just so excited for you, just as you are for yourself. You want them kind of being your cheerleader and whatnot. But you also want to learn from someone that you want to kind of follow their journey. You want to have like a similar journey as them. You want to have similar qualities that they have, right? So Cassie had turned her business into a successful business in like 6-7 months. And I'm like, I want to do that, right? Of course I want to do that. She had many mentors that she learned from along the way as well, and her experience, and she combined it all into one program, which I mean, if you look out there, there's so many different mentorship programs. There's so many people out there. So taking somebody who has combined everything that she has learned from all these different sources, I thought was very valuable, because I'm not just getting her experience, I'm getting everything that she's learned from other people as well. And then she's a completely different person than me, right? You work completely different. What drives you and like how you like schedule your day, like everything is just like night and day with us, which to me I found super beneficial. I don't think it's great to get somebody who's a coach who's exactly the same as you. I think it's good to get somebody who's different, because I mean, with me and her, she's taught me to slow down. Okay, like I'm nuts. Okay, I do go pretty fast, and I'm pretty like overscheduled, and I needed someone to show me a different way to live. Now, I haven't lost what is innately me, but I've learned to kind of just slow down, to breathe, to show myself more grace when I do need to take, me time or a me day, or, according to COVID, a me month and a half, right? And be okay with that, right? Like, she's showed me what is possible. And that is something that I think is super important to look for, because you want to kind of well-round your qualities with other ones that you can add from other successful people in your life.
Totally. I think, again, thank you. And, I too have vice versa learned from you. You really put goal setting on like the front, like the front view of me. And I was like, whoa, I do not like goal set and, owning a business. And that's something I need to integrate. So yeah, I think that comes to the play of kind of pushing your boundaries and going outside your comfort zone. And it's kind of like adding to your tool belt, and you're just you're soaking up things, and anything that, we're not the same on, it's just like, then, leave that to me. I'll do that. And you do you. And, your innate skills that's your home, that's your alignment. And I really want to say that like your why is your alignment. And like, that's when your why is really put out into the world so authentically and just with ease and flow. And that's really when you're going to start to see major things happen in your business. And it's so great, yeah, again, just to have someone along for the ride, especially if you're a solo entrepreneur. And yeah, again, I'm just so thankful to have you as a mentee and that we work together, and thank you for letting me guest host. I've never hosted a podcast. So, maybe leave a review. Let me know how I did on Jessica's podcast. I'm curious. Maybe this is my new profession or something. But I'm going to pass it off to Jessica. Thank you so much for diving so deep into your process and your new pivot, and being so transparent and honest about, kind of your journey with working with a coach, finding one, what that looked like, a lot of the fears, and limiting beliefs that came up along that process, and just kind of, really inspiring, I'm sure, many people, to be able to take that leap and leap off that cliff and really take that pivot, because it's really scary, building a brand and building a business in one direction and then being like, I'm going to pivot. It's a really scary leap, and Jessica is a true inspiration to doing that. And I'm just so excited for June 1st and for jumping in one of those, the goal setting calls. Like I need that in my life. So I will pass it off to you.
Well, okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me, for hosting the episode, for probing me once again. But for anybody who is looking for a coach, for a business coach, if you're looking to launch a business, you're wanting to pivot, you're wanting to kind of take your business to another level, I kind of want Cassie to share a little bit about, what she has available to you guys. Where can you connect with her? How can you get onto this mentorship program?
Yeah, thank you. So again, Jessica actually lit a fire under my ass pretty good. So I've been trying to launch a new website for Wild for quite some time. Running two businesses is not the easiest thing. And I don't, Jessica would be like, I would have had that done a month ago. But So that will be launching ASAP. So you can find it at wildbusinessconsulting.com. You can log on to there. You can find out who I am, how to reach me. You can look at what the services that I offer, exactly the same ones that Jessica currently does, which is the Sidekick. And then also you can get a really good, or dive deep into kind of my 10-step program and what that looks like and kind of how it could help you build your business, take your idea off the ground, do a pivot, and just honestly just get really clear about where you are with your business. I would say that I actually redid my steps about year one into Whoosh and redid them and really dove deep into that next layer. So this is always continuous. We're always growing. We're always needing to kind of, I love that you said earlier, just like articulate. It's so hard to articulate everything that's going on in our head, especially, us as creative entrepreneurs. It's often really hard to get all that mastery out into the world and make it clear and concise. And I find working through these steps and going back to that foundational piece is really like the gold. And that's really where you need to begin. So it's helped me, numerous times now and clearly for Jessica too, which thank you so much for sharing all that. And I swear I didn't pay her. You can find us there. So wildbusinessconsulting.com. as well as on Instagram, The Wild Ride. That's where you can kind of follow along on my journey. I do videos on there and Instagram posts, and it's a little bit more intuitive behind the scenes of what happens running, kind of two businesses, and one's a product base and one's a service, and kind of the complete chaos that is. Thank you again. Thanks so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.